Hello, everybody. This is Scott from the Four Corners Podcast, and welcome to a very special edition of the Four Corners Podcast. We're starting a new series here, kind of like a mini-series. Colin, Steven, Zach, myself will be doing individual episodes, not replacing what we're currently doing, but just kind of adding to what we've already been doing. And for mine, I'm going to be introducing and interviewing local and non-local independent wrestlers just to kind of get their take on wrestling, their goals, aspirations, upcoming events they might be working on. And today, I am joined on the inaugural episode by my good friend Skip, who I have known for many years. He's kind of had a change in his persona and a change in the way he kind of conducts himself. He now goes by the name of Rampage Raddison. And Rampage, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, buddy. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
So, I myself want to just talk about a couple things real quick, if it's all right.
Oh, go ahead.
There's a new company in Indianapolis called Indianapolis Championship Wrestling. Man, they are taking off in a good way. Probably in my opinion, strictly opinion, the biggest up-and-coming independent organization in Indianapolis, quite possibly the state. Lots of good talent that runs through there. They got a lot of big shows coming up. Me personally, I've been doing this for 18 years. Me and Scott wrestled each other a couple times, you know. I still ain't gonna forget the Dork the Clown match, man. That was a good one. That was probably the best one we tied up in. We tied up in a few of them. That one was good. They got 3 really big events coming up. They got one, it is this coming April 15th, Sunday, in Greenfield, Indiana. They're working with a non-charitable organization called Collaborate 317. What it is, it's a whole bunch of charities that's being brought together, and they're having these events. All the money raised at these events go 110% to all the charities. Both of those events are April 15th and May 6th. April 15th, they're hosting the show with former WWE star Rob Conway. A lot of you may remember him from his La Resistance days, and then he did the whole "look at me, buff" afterwards. The show on May 6th is actually going to be a bittersweet show for me. I actually am getting my rematch against the Monster Abyss in a Monsters Ball match that night. It'll be myself and the Irish Giant, which is a new up-and-coming guy. You guys should probably check him out. He's still a rookie, so you and I both know what that consists of.
Yeah, it's tough being a rookie.
Yes, absolutely. We've all been through that. Taking on Abyss and a gentleman by the name of Rowdy Redneck, who's been around probably 14, 13 years, 15, something like that. He's got some experience in the business. And we're going to be in a Monsters Ball match.
For those not familiar with Monsters Ball, can you kind of enlighten about what the stipulation is?
Absolutely. So for 24 hours, all of us are secluded in an area where there's nobody else around. It'll kind of make you go a little insane. You know, you have nothing there. And then at a certain time, we all get released back out to the mainstream world. And it's all falls count, hardcore. Nothing is held back. You just go balls to the wall in no rules. You just, whatever's available, whatever's there is all legal.
So you had all a little bit trepidatious at all over Abyss having so many, well, actually having so much experience in Monsters Ball, and recently just having one with Congo Kong and Impact Wrestling. Is that anything that you're personally worried about with the experience factor?
You know, that's why this match is going to be really bittersweet for me. I've been in this business for 18 years. January 15th of 2000 is when I had my very first match. I faced Abyss for the very first time the Saturday, I want to say it was like November 11th, 17th, something like that, in 2017, in a Monsters Ball match. It was a singles match, and I lost the match to him. I invoked my rematch clause, but as in wrestling, as you know, there's certain bylaws that you have to abide by.
Some red tape.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently out of the ranks. He beat me for my hardcore championship. I'm currently out of the ranks for the hardcore title. I've actually won. I am the current ICW Crossroads champion. So I can no longer technically qualify for the hardcore championship since I'm already out of that division. But I still invoked my rematch against Abyss, regardless of the situation, which he has accepted. I feel as me personally on the inside, I've been doing this for 18 years. I'm still young. I still got time to allow in this business to succeed and to progress forward. And I kind of feel like personally deep down inside with myself that if I don't win this match, then what am I doing in this business? Because I know for a fact, yeah, he's towering at almost 7 foot tall, 350 pounds. The guy's built solid. I'm not going to lie. In November, I kind of went, Rampage kind of went in there a little egotistical. Felt like he was on top of the world. It kind of played into what slipped past me. It got a little bit to me, and I believe deep down inside myself that's exactly why I lost the match, because I was already the champion going in. You know, my head was full, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just want to. I've reevaluated the situation. I've sat down and I've watched the footage over and over again. I've watched a lot of TNA stuff to kind of review the situation just a little bit more, and to kind of really push my mentality to kind of embrace the situation a little better to what I believe would be a victory for me on May 6th in Greenfield, Indiana at the Collaborate 317 building. It's on 4202 EMS Boulevard in Greenfield, just in case anybody was curious of that. But I feel like that there's going to be bigger and stronger and better people that I'm going to go up against if I, start. I mean, recently, rapidly, I've been succeeding, and my success in this business has been really, the windows of opportunity have opened up drastically for me recently, and I'm just like so floored by it and so very humbled by it as well. I feel like that if I can't beat him on May 6th, I just need to hang everything up and just call it a day. Now, it's not a retirement match, a loser leaves match, anything like that, but me on a mentality level, on a personal level, there's going to be bigger and better opponents that I'll be in the ring, standing corner to corner from, staring down, that will be bigger obstacles to get past. And if I just can't make it past Abyss, I just feel like, me personally, there's really no reason for me to continue taking those open doors of opportunity.
Well, it sounds like it's going to come to a head there on May 6th, you said?
Absolutely.
And hopefully, if time permits, I would like to go see this match, because I think it would be interesting to see a Monsters Ball in person. I have not yet had the pleasure of watching Abyss wrestle in person. I've only seen him on Impact. But I do know what he brings to the table. I know what he's about. And I do know what you're about and what you bring to the table. And I think this has the making of a beautiful car crash.
Yeah.
That I think will culminate into an epic night of professional wrestling. And I wish you the best of luck in that match, because I think this will be a great opportunity for both you and Abyss to bring out the best in one another, to rise to yet another level in your already storied career.
Absolutely.
I did want to go ahead and talk about, for those of you who don't know, this man right here also was responsible for my first professional match in wrestling was at New Generation Wrestling in GW. And I will never forget, because I was walking into the building that day and I was still a trainee, and I hadn't had my first official match for BMF with Brian. And Poffo comes up to me and he says, hey, Tommy Gage is sick. He's not going to be at the show, and I need a partner for Matt Valor. And I've already talked to Brian. You're it. I'm scared shitless at this point because I was looking for my opportunity in October, and this was, I believe, a couple weeks prior to that. And they said we're going to be working a tag team, Locked and Loaded. And I mean, I'd reffed a couple of your matches at that point, and I knew you guys were safe workers, and I'd be in great hands going into the match. So you guys arrive, and then you guys, I believe you guys were tag champions at the time.
Yes.
And Matt shows up, and Matt and I are talking, and Matt said, look, just relax. He's like, you're going to be in there with 3 of the best that'll take care of you, and just listen. That's the most important thing when you're in there, is to listen to the people in the match with you. So you and I had talked the match over with Rob and Matt, and I got to get some stuff in there. I did make one mistake that I won't ever forget, because I was supposed to take a crossbody from Rob as he's coming off the ropes. Well, I ducked it, and Rob goes flying across the ring and lands into the ropes. And Rob, being the wise vet that he is, he stayed down, and he used this to double down.
Yeah.
And I stayed down as well. He kind of motioned to where nobody else could see, just stay down. And the rest starts to count, and we did the hot tag, and just being aware enough of the situation to make best out of it. And then we go to the finish, which was a doomsday device from you guys, and 1, 2, 3. And it was great to have that first match with you guys. And I've talked about it with a couple of people I work with today, and we've reflected on my wrestling. And that match always gets brought up. It truly is one of my favorites because it was my first. And it was nice to share that moment with you. I wanted to let you know.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I remember that match like it was yesterday, dude. You know, being in the business a long time, you could take this comment any way you want to take it. Being in the business as long as I have, I've had a bazillion matches. I mean, obviously not as many as, a WWE worker or somebody who's on that weekly schedule. But ultimately, 18 years, let's just put it in retrospect to say I only had one match every weekend for 18 years. If you do the math, that's still a lot of matches. But one thing I can remember, one thing I know for a fact deep down inside of myself is that was actually probably one of my funnest matches I had. Because there's not, I'm not saying you were perfect. I'm not saying any rookie's perfect. We kind of hit on that a little bit earlier. But for your very first match and training with BMF, and you just kind of being put Johnny on the spot a couple hours prior, you did very well. And I still remember that match like it was yesterday, just because of the situation at hand, and then the results on how everything got put out, and the fact that we were like, man, this guy's green, we've been in the business for a long time. Hopefully he listens, and he does everything that he needs to do. But yeah, man, that was one of my most fun matches I've had with you.
And I appreciate that, and it's always going to be something special for me, because another one of the big things was you can't replace Tommy Gage.
Oh, yeah.
You and I have known Tommy for quite some time, and
yeah.
I'm sure Tommy will probably watch this at some point. And just getting out there, I was scared because we were playing baby faces that night. And I was afraid because I didn't know how the fans were going to react, because I know how much Section 8, Tommy and Matt Valor, meant to that crowd.
Oh, absolutely. And
I was like, God, I'm going to come out there. It's going to be crickets. But Valor had me come out with him. We got a really good ovation. That was probably 99.9% on Matt Valor. Nobody knew who the hell Scott Storm was. So we go out there. It was a blast. But I do, to transition to something else here, I do understand that you have had the honor of working Rikishi.
Yes.
Go and tell me what that's like. Because a lot of guys, when they get into wrestling, and I'm not saying this is you, but a lot of guys when they get into wrestling, they're always, well, I can't wait to wrestle so-and-so, and I can't wait to wrestle this guy that worked for Vince, or this guy that worked for Bischoff, or this guy that worked for Heyman. But what was it like was that your first ever like name that you wrestled?
Oh no, Jesus criminy, I've wrestled a lot of big names. We'll touch on the Rikishi base part first. I liked working with him. I mean, honestly, I can't honestly sit back and run down a thought down memory lane of a name that I did not like working. I'm going to say that going back to the doors opening opportunities, I will say this, that was probably one of the first ones for modern time right now, where it kind of opened the door and opened people's eyes and realized, like, hey, this guy's a great worker. He busts his butt. He goes hard at everything he does. Let's reach out to him. That was probably like I guess you could say the rebirth of those doors and windows of opportunity opening. But I love working Quiche. Very, very down to earth, very mellow. He was open to any kind of ideas that anybody wanted to do. He never really turned down an idea. He was like, okay, that's good, but then he would add to it, and then we format everything out, and at the end it all worked out real well. Now, you and I both know within the match there may have been a few mechanical flaws, so to speak, but on a audience perspective,
They're none the wiser.
yeah, it looked amazing in their opinion. Who was the very first name I've worked? I know that the time for this podcast is not limited. We have all day. Except for, at least up till about 7 o'clock when Mania starts.
Yeah, and that's going to be a 20-hour experience.
Yeah, right. Memory lane. I want to say, don't quote me on this. Now, being in the locker room with one, this is probably not true. I want to say, actually, you know what? It's kind of funny. A relative of Rikishi's, if I'm not mistaken, the late and great Rosie.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that was my very first experience working a big name in the wrestling business. It was in Vincennes, Indiana, for FEW Wrestling, which what me and Rob both ran for like 10, 11 years, something like that. But this show was different because when we ran FEW Wrestling, we started in Newcastle, Indiana. Then it went well there for so long. We took a little bit of a break to kind of regenerate, get the talk going again, get people interested. And then we brought it to Indianapolis at like 2 or 3 different venues. We jumped around amongst those. But that show was different because a gentleman who's now passed, he used to have podcasts, used to be a ring announcer, great guy by the name of Doc Young. He used to do podcasts with Les Thatcher. Mm-hmm. Before podcasts were like really big and popular. They were just kind of like starting to make the breakout on the internet. And he was doing them for HWA, Heartland Wrestling Association. He wanted to bring FEW to Vincennes, where is around the general area. He was around the Vincennes, Terre Haute area at the time. That's where he currently resided. And he wanted to bring a FEW show there. So technically, it was our show, but he was the one that was paying the finances, wanted to use it for the night just to give it a shot, see what would happen. And he brought it there. So it was a gentleman who was trained in EWF Wrestling, which is now Heroes and Legends, mm-hmm. By the name of Gunnar Hansen. And Rosie, we set it up with a promo, did a tag match later on. taking on me, and a lot of people out there may know who this guy is and may know who he's associated with. If not, I'm just going to reiterate anyways. There was a tag team that had like, I want to say it was like a 6 to 9 month run with WWE known as the Heartthrobs.
Yep.
Romeo Roselli was one half of the Heartthrobs. So technically in one night, that was my first time teaming with a former WWE star and facing a former WWE star. And actually, a kind of a funny story behind that. There was a guy on another show that, when you're in the wrestling business, as you and I both know, you go by seniority, respect. If there's a guy on the show that's been in the business longer than you, and you kind of got to, rather it be gimmick, story, anything on a personal level, you got to show the respect and the seniority, and you got to switch things up sometimes. Well, on a show going after that show, that night, me and Romeo Roselli, we did like a little story of the night, and we formed the new Heartthrobs, Skip Raddison and Romeo Roselli. We ended up losing that match.
Great debut.
Yeah, right. Romeo Roselli, used his superhero powers and defeated both of us. So at the end of the match, Romeo Roselli said the new Heartthrobs are broken up, and I was trying to, hey, wait a sec, as I followed him to the locker room. I had a show the next day where there's a veteran guy who wasn't on the show, or who was on the show but not a regular there, and he used the Playboy moniker as well. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, shoot, what am I going to do here? They asked me to show respect to him and not use it, and I'm at that point I wasn't really, I was kind of getting out of that rookie stage. I was like 5 to maybe 7 years into the business. And I was like, this guy's been doing it for like 12, 14. I was like, all right, I got to figure out something. So being on the show the day before with Romeo Roselli and us forming the new Heartthrobs, I was like, all right, let's do this. Because, Skip Raddison was from Hollywood, Florida. Mm-hmm. All right, so this is what we're going to do. So after the promoter approached me, I was like, hey, can you do that, please? It would be much appreciated. And, it's the respect. It's about the respect, And I'm like, all right, cool. So I became the Hollywood Heartthrob, Skip Raddison, that night. And then it just kind of stuck, and we went from there. So, but yeah, back to the main point. Yeah, that was probably my first experience with a name in the ring. I've worked tons of names. Even though I've been in the business for 18 years and worked a lot of names, I still, to this day, I want to say the absolute biggest name I've probably ever stepped foot in the ring with. And if you think about this guy's history, as far as in the wrestling business goes, not on a personal level, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Hell of a mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Great mind for the business. And probably one of the best, if not the best, mic promo cutters ever in the business. Just strictly opinion.
I would agree. I grew up watching Jake. That was a large part of the reason him and Sting were two of the ones I grew up and idolized as a kid. And going back and just watching some of their matches, and especially Jake on the microphone, was something that at the time nobody was close. No one. He was. Oh, yeah. It was Jake Roberts, and then there went everybody else.
Absolutely.
And it would have been an honor to met Jake the Snake Roberts. I haven't had the chance yet, but hopefully at some point our paths will cross. But I wanted to go back and touch on something that you mentioned, that prior story, the entrance music. I'd actually went and worked EWF at one point, and I get there, and I normally keep in my bag, I kept a CD with like 4 or 5 songs on it. Because, like you said, you never know who's going to have that song.
Absolutely.
I get there, and I shit you not, 4 or 5 songs were picked. And the only one that wasn't picked was one song that didn't go with what I was doing that night. So they went through, because EWF had such a large roster and such a large musical library, so the sound guy sat down with me, and we were going through the songs, and we finally picked some. But I was like, what were the damn odds? 4 out of 5 songs were picked. So from that moment on, I just started carrying my entire CD collection. I was like, there's no way they're going to have all of this shit covered. But on another topic here, you've been in the business, as you said, for 18 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen a lot of people come and go in the business, a lot of the Johnny-come-latelys and guys that went on to do great things.
Yes.
From your experience and your perspective, what makes a good professional wrestler in today's age of professional wrestling?
This is, I tell a lot of actually I just had this discussion last night with a promotion I work for in Franklin, Indiana. Well, I touched base on it, but generally speaking, in my opinion, the mannerisms and the way it needs to be taken, everybody knows, and if you don't know, I apologize that you're finding out now. At least you'll be a little educated. As far as it goes, there's not a lot of money in the wrestling business unless you get those windows opened and those doors open for you to go through and potentially, push yourself further to the top and push yourself more out there, market it yourself, and then then that one door opens this door, and this door opens this door, and then eventually you start going down a path. I always tell everybody, everything, regardless if if there's a lot of money there or not, you're getting a lot of, you're getting paid for either by experience, atmosphere, I've been a big fan within myself and a big believer to say that regardless any advice somebody gives you, regardless any situation you're in, whether it be positive or negative, there can be something deciphered out of that situation, out of that comment made, out of whatever is going on. There's something you can decipher from that and use to benefit yourself at a later time. I personally think, I take the mentality of, okay, let's just say you got, I'm just going to use Joe Schmo A. He's going to a wrestling show and he knows he's only going to make $50 that night, it's whatever, but he's still getting paid regardless. I live my mentality by regardless of the pay, you're getting paid. Like I said, even if it's not monetary value, knowledge, experience, atmosphere, whatever it is, even if you're going there and you're wrestling for absolutely nothing, you're getting paid in one of those 3 aspects. Would you show up? I treat everything like a 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, 4 to midnight, whatever the shift is you work at the job that pays you money to be able to live. Would you show up there wearing a pair of shorts and a t-shirt? Absolutely not.
No.
Would you show up there yelling, cussing, screaming, acting a fool? No. Your mannerisms, the way you perceive this any business, your mannerisms should always be intact, always in line. You should always dress good. You should always be very professional. Always, nobody understands the concept. Okay, I get it that sometimes situations come up. You have a blowout in your pants. You have to stop by Walmart. You're short on cash, something like that. Or maybe the only thing, you don't have any cash, the only thing you got is the gas that's in your tank and a pair of shorts in the back. Situations like that, that's different. I just feel like that the wrestling business, as far as would you treat it like your 9 to 5? That's, if you need, I'm a big believer in everything should be mandated to your 9 to 5. If there's no cussing on the job, don't show up here cussing. If there's no dress code, you can wear wherever you want to work. Hey, that's cool. Then maybe you should do that. And within a certain regulations and stuff, I think a certain of those rules can be bent in a certain way. But I mean, you're not going to show up to your boss and be like, hey, what's up, dude? Man, I just got done boinking this girl last night. Like, you ain't going to do that.
I know a few guys like that.
Well, yeah, like I said, some people, hey, we're in the wrestling business. You know, some people are a little off the rocker, I'm not going to lie. But then again, with any business you go in, you're going to have those couple of people. But through my experiences of being in this business, being more proper, more prompt, better dressed, more respectful, more... just more. I don't want to say
polished.
Yeah. More polished. No, I don't want to say just to be more like way society needs you to be or expects you to be, but I feel like that. More on a positive level toward anything and everything in life gets you a lot further than having very off mannerisms. So, in my opinion, that's what it's going to take to accomplish what you were asking.
Very good. Another thing I wanted to touch upon is over your 18-year career. What's the most awkward thing you've ever had happen to you inside of a ring? Whether it be a fan think they're going to get cute and try and jump in the ring. By the way, I will warn you ahead of time, that is not a good idea. That was the first thing we were told in training. If somebody tries to get into the ring, you're going to get fucked up. Don't do it. I would not advise it. You remember P.T. Hustler, right?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody tried to jump in on one of his matches.
Interesting.
Yeah, it didn't end very well. P.T. knocked that guy out pretty quick. You don't do it.
Yeah.
But, what's maybe the most awkward situation you've been in a match, whether it been like on the spot or maybe somebody was pulling a rib on you or...
I get ribbed all the time. All the time, man. Actually, there was a worker by the name of Rowdy Redneck. We were in the Fatal 4-Way Fatal 4-Way match last night in Franklin, Indiana, and I heard him whisper something to somebody, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, geez. Because I knew he was just messing with the guy just to get him to break character. So that's what did actually happen to me personally, but when I see that stuff, it affects me too. I'm like, oh, geez, He had him in the corner, and he was doing something to him, whispered something to him in his ear, and then I was like, oh, God, really? Are you serious? So I kind of had to look away, kind of go one of these. I wasn't the man currently in the ring, so I kind of had to crack a smile and go back to being, the character. But, well, I'm going to say this. This is probably just completely random, off the wall, off the top of my head, without putting a lot of thought and being put Johnny on the spot. Because let me be the first to say, this podcast was not rehearsed whatsoever.
No.
So anything that's said in it is going to be Johnny on the spot, and may have to run down memory lane to kind of get an idea.
That's the beauty of being alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so a company, I want to say it was mid-2000s, in 2000s, somewhere with that, in that time frame, maybe even early 2000s. There's a company called TNW. They ran out of School 109 in Indianapolis, which is like the northwest side of Indy. Anybody who knows anything about the northwest side of Indy knows it's probably the worst side to be on, besides the east side, which is absolutely like walking through, Druid, like
the slums.
Bad. Yeah, the slums, man. Ran down areas and stuff. So it's kind of funny how time evolves and things go on. But and I'm not gonna mention any names, but the names of people involved, I should say, rather, in a bad way. But me and Rob, dude, I mean, I tell the stories to people a lot, and they're just like, wow, and wow. And sometimes I feel like that, some of those stories I tell, a lot of people are like, wow, and then when they walk away, they're like, yeah, what the heck, this guy's full of crap. But no, I'll tell the story to the podcast and to you, because, I mean, you've been in the ring, you've seen what we both did as a tag team, and we were, in my opinion, the mid-2000s, early to mid, maybe right at the beginning of the late 2000s. Locked and Loaded was the hottest tag team in this state. We were getting, actually probably in the Midwest, we were getting booked everywhere. Missouri, Kansas, we were getting booked in Georgia. Hit a little bit of the East Coast stuff, not too much, like Virginia area and stuff like that. I mean, Ohio, obviously, all the states surrounding Indiana was a given. Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky. We were like that team. So in TNW, we actually had to, on numerous occasions, very numerous occasions, and actually the outcome scenario, I'll explain, there's multiple of those, and I'll explain those too, but there's a certain group of people that showed up at TNW shows that sat in the audience that absolutely hated our guts so many times. And poor Harley and Todd, who used to do security for them, they were two bigger dudes, but they were, I would say, in my opinion, even though they were heavier set guys, you look at them and you could tell that they portrayed a lot more than just fat. Those guys they had muscle. It just wasn't very, you couldn't observe it too well. I've actually, grabbed Harley's muscle and he flexed it and I was like, dang, whoa, I wish I had that, It wasn't very obvious, but those two dudes were big. And God love them. I want to say it was about a 6-month time span. But we put them to work. We put those two guys to work. There was a group of people that came to the TNW shows, and me and Rob were so over with the crowd on hate that the IPS sheriff had to be called to town. Me and Kincaid both had. There was numerous times in that 6-month time span because TNW were running. They started out running one show a month, and they kind of were doing 2, kind of 3, and then it backed down to the 2, and then 3, 1. It just kind of jumped around. They had a lot of shows, and a certain group of people went to the School 109 shows all the time, and that group of people threatened to kill us, shoot us, stab us.
This is Jeremy Hadley level heat right there.
Wait for us in the parking lot to beat the fuck out of us. Excuse me. Oh,
you're good. We've said worse on the show.
I know. I've watched. I subscribe. Which also, everybody who out there, you need to subscribe to this podcast because it's definitely up and coming and one of the good podcasts out there.
Thank you.
Not a problem. I've watched every episode. I started to watch the episode that was posted this morning, but I didn't get all the way into it because I realized the time. And I was like, I gotta get on the road.
I actually be on it today.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I gotta be on it today. This group of people threatened us in every way possible. They themselves had to be personally escorted off by APD off property so we could leave the building. At this point, the ring's already tore down. You know what the process for setup and tear down is with stage, chairs, guardrails.
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a long process. At this point, everything's already tore down and packed in the ring, but we haven't had a chance to even leave the building yet because we're waiting on IPD to show up to get these people off property because they're standing in the parking lot with knives, billy clubs, guns, all this other stuff. And this happened numerous times. There's actually a couple times where they had us park in a secluded location off property, and IPD actually came in through a different entrance and actually escorted us into the back of their vehicle to take us to our cars in the situation, knowing the situation at hand and had to be in dispatch so many times, it worked out easier for them. That way they didn't have 4 or 5 officers come out and escort us off property or have to wait or something like that, for the show to end. That way, it was just easier for them. That way they didn't have so many officers on a detail that was very unnecessary to be on, knowing what the outcome was going to be. So after a time period of that happening so many times, they actually just had us park secluded off property. The funny story about that is, fast forward to current times, I can't vouch for the entire group, but I will say that some of that group, and the group was like 10 people. So you put that in numbers now, you're like, wow, that was a lot of people that just really wanted to mangle and kill 2 people. You know what I mean? So you put that in retrospect, that was kind of a big situation. But fast forward now, I'll say out of that group of 10 people, there's about 3 or 4 of them. Not only are they friends with me on Facebook and on all social media platforms, they actually are personal, close, inside friends.
It's funny how wrestling does come full circle.
Absolutely. So, and they always get a hold of me. Hey, when's the next show? I want to get tickets, and stuff like that. And it's like, wow. Going back in time, you wanted to put your revolver to my forehead and pull the trigger. And now you're like, oh, where you at?
That's a real shoot right there.
100% real shoot.
That reminds me of a story when I was wrestling in Lafayette monthly. I was in the Uprising in Lafayette, and Hadley, Rojas, and Fernandez and Brett were kind enough to let me into the group to work and learn from them. And we were doing a Holiday Hell in a Cell, which was War Games.
Oh, yeah.
And we're coming down to the ring, and Hadley... You've seen Jeremy Hadley work.
Yeah.
Hadley is Hadley 24/7. He doesn't stop being Hadley.
Absolutely.
So we're coming down in the ring, and there's this guy in military attire. And he's standing at the ringside. And Hadley, he's making his rounds. He's telling this kid he sucks. Telling this woman she needs to leave her husband. He's telling this guy he shouldn't have been born. And Hadley, when he gets on a roll, he rolls with it. So he gets down to this military guy, looks at him and says, I want you to go back to Iraq and die. And I was like, we're going to get fucking killed. we're going to be killed. At the end of the show, we're going to go out there and some Marine is going to snipe us as we come out of the building. And Hadley gets in the ring, and he leans into me. He's like, I probably shouldn't have said that last one. And again, that's not Jeremy. I want to clear this up. That's not Jeremy's view on view. That was not said in anything more than just in his character. That was not anything that he fully believes.
Right.
But we're in the ring or whatever, and then after we do the match, and we go to the back, and this guy is standing talking to the promoter, and he's wanting Jeremy fired. Like, legit, I don't want to see this guy at any more wrestling shows. And the promoter fought for Jeremy, and he explained to him, and I believe Jeremy did go apologize face-to-face to him later, but it was one of those stories where I was just like, kind of in awe of watching how good Jeremy could work when he was really into it. Yeah. And I just thought that was probably one of my funniest Jeremy Hadley stories that I had, and I've got quite a few Jeremy Hadley stories of good to talk about. Yeah. But that was probably one of my favorite ones. But as we get ready to wrap this down, as we're kind of coming up on time here, when it's all said and done, when you finally decided to call it a career, what is the one thing that you want your fans and fellow wrestlers and promoters to remember about either Rampage Raddison, Skip Raddison? What do you want to be remembered for when it's time to call it a career?
Well, I'll say this. I want everybody to know that regardless of the situation, rather I'm sick, I have a broken leg, I have a bad health condition, I got off work at 4 o'clock and had to shoot straight to Indianapolis because the show started at 5 and I'm opener on the card. Regardless of anything, every time I go out there, rather be actually just in general, not even just including wrestling, in general in my life, regardless, I give everything. I go out there and I do my hardest for each and every one of them. For everybody that I go and I'm told I'm working in the match that night. I want regardless of the situation, the promoter. I feel like that. Me personally, I'm probably one of the hardest, most underrated workers in this state, quite possibly the business. But when you put it in a business aspect and you include everybody, that's a really big demographic. So that's why I say quite possibly. But in this state, I do think I am very unappreciated. I should say underappreciated. Very underrated. And that's one thing I love about ICW in Indianapolis. They realize that. And they're like, look, dude, you're going to be our lead locker room vet. You're going to run the locker room. We want any kind of idea that you think would be great to do. We're open to your ideas. We understand the fact that you're underappreciated and that you are very underrated, and that your abilities are not being put out there to its fullest. We see that and we want you here. A lot of people. I don't know if anybody does this. Actually, I'll touch base on that in a second, but because the comment I'm getting ready to make is going to actually lead into that. But Skip Raddison to be a very heavy set individual. I used to be 421 pounds at my heaviest. Mm-hmm. And I was still a good worker. But being that big, you're limited. I'm not going to lie. I had a couple personal events, which wasn't anything bad, so to speak, to not put on this podcast. But I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit because this answer is going to be a very long answer. Being a big guy like that, you're very limited. You can still go out there, put on a good show, talk all the smack you want to those fans, but you're limited on your ability in the ring. A few little events that happened in my life kind of opened me up and broadened me up to man, I got the ability to do everything I need to do. I know deep down inside I'm a good worker. I need to further look into this. I've been in the business for 18 years. I started the Rampage character 5 years ago, so it's still green, so to speak, for the business in this area. But I actually, on my personal time, I actually sit around and think of ideas. I Google ideas. The Rampage character is one crazy bastard. Okay, he has a mentality. He has a crazy mentality that he finds normal, because that's his normality. That's where he's at home, so to speak. But everybody else around him is looking at him like, wow, this dude is absolutely sick. He's a smash mouth, in your face character that doesn't back down from a fight. He don't care if you're 1,000 pounds or if you're 100 pounds. He'll look at you dead in the eyes, in the face, and he'll go hard on beating the crap out of you. He has no filter. That's my character. And it works, and it's over as can be in any promotion I go. I actually take personal time of mine, and I sit down and I Google stuff. I'm like, okay, how can I make this character bigger and better? I put, maybe about an hour each day, Sunday through Thursday, into my character and research certain qualities. I research gestures, facial expressions. I research, not necessarily, all pro wrestlers research new gear. Okay, I'm going to get me a new pair of tights, I got $50, but I research pertaining to gear, what my character should be wearing. I need to find stuff that fits his mentality. I need to find this. But I do the research to get myself into that mentality to find out what it needs to be done. And then I tried. My current intro to music is absolutely the best intro to music for this character, and I dipped around with a couple of them, but this one I have now sticks. It's Rob Bailey featuring the Hustle Standard. It's called Beast. It was on the Southpaw soundtrack with the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal, where he played a boxer, had a downfall, and then he was fighting his way back up. Came out like 2 or 3 years ago. A lot of people don't know what that song is or didn't even know that song existed, and then I started using it. Now, a lot of people's like, hey man, I downloaded your interest music on my iPod, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. You know, I used to be 421 pounds. I currently weigh 204. I told myself in order to put all this stuff together to make myself a better person generally, to make my ability better, to be able to be better for the audience, to be better for the promoters, to be better for, even the bell guy that sits there and rings that bells and has his stopwatch and times all the matches, even that guy. I mean, from the littlest person to the biggest person. I'm not out there for myself. Yes, I want a push. Yes, do I want to make a couple bucks in business? Absolutely. But I feel like in my opinion, I don't feel like it's because of the time in the business. I feel like it's because I spend my personal time making my character a better character, not just for me and marketing purposes, but for the fans. Because regardless if you love Rampage Raddison or you hate him, which that character itself has not been a face yet, probably never will be a face. he talks a lot of smack and he don't care. Like I said, he has no filter. The dude's crazy in the head, but everything around, but he finds that to be normal for himself. Everything else, everybody else around him is looking at him like he's crazy. I do all that, like I said, just not to only make myself marketable for myself and to be able to make the character more marketable, but I also do that to make sure that the fans are entertained in themselves with my character. There's a perfect example. Let me tell you this. Last night, and I'm not saying this is the outcome every time. It is within a general range, but last night I had my merchandise table set up at the show, selling merchandise, and the two promotions, ICW and another promotion, PCWA in Franklin, they're kind of like working together with each other. Like I said, once ICW started taking off, there's a lot of promotions that season. They're like, oh wow, maybe this guy can help me with my organization, make it more successful, bring in some different talent, get talk generated. So some of the fans last night that was at that show was also ICW fans, because ICW is on the south side of Indianapolis. ICW, they end up having shows like every 2 weeks on the south side, and then they jump around to other venues to draw a bigger crowd and to bring interest to that. That way eventually they'll get a crowd base together and they'll follow them to all the places. But Franklin, Indiana is south of Indianapolis, about like 20 minutes, so that they're relatively close to each other. So some of the fans that was there last night were ICW fans, and some of them was some of the mainstream PCWA crowd. But I mean, like I said, the demographic fluctuates very. I wouldn't say it's in a general range where it's always going to stay, and I'm okay with that. But mixing it with a new crowd and the crowd that's already there, I made a lot of money at my merchandise table. Actually, as a matter of fact, I made more than I probably ever made, just because you had the new crowd, just because you had the older crowd that already knew me, And a lot of people, yeah, you got to spend money to make money. I get the concept. And if you don't understand that, you do. You have to spend money to make money in this business, really with any business. But I also do believe a lot of the reason why that number was what it was because of the time I put into my character, the research I put into it. You know, the ICW treats me very well. They take care of me financially. I'll be the first to admit I'm not going to throw numbers, because you and I both know throwing numbers in the wrestling business is very frowned upon. But ICW's given me the biggest payday I've ever received, and it floored me. I was like, wow. They didn't have to do that, but they did it because, once again, they understand how hard I work at everything I do. And that honestly, unless I make it, you know, ROH, Global Force, TNA, WWE, you know, one of these big organizations, New Japan, it'll probably be the biggest payday I'll ever receive, to be truth be told. But they do it because they know what I do for my character. These fans buy my merchandise because they know what I do to develop that character, the time I put into that character. And I'm not saying that anybody in this business or in this area doesn't do that. But I feel like I do it a lot more. Am I sitting in that person, the other indie workers' living room and observing what they do for their character? No, I'm not. Do I have any video footage that can prove that, you know, they don't do it harder than me, or as hard as me, or even less than me, or more than me? No, I don't. And unless the evidence is there, I can't really contest. Mm-hmm. But I will say that I do believe, in my opinion, I put more work and time into my character to make it to make it the best it can be, more than a lot of people in the business. I mean, there's a gentleman by the name of Keith who somebody said something on some strand, and I openly admitted the guy. I always thought, you know, that he didn't really care for me, didn't like me,
right.
You know, because of a few people he's associated with on the indie circuit, and he's like, wow, I didn't know anybody ever thought that, or I didn't know you thought that, you know. But I mean, he recently, it kind of floored me a little bit, because he tagged me in a comment. It was a conversation between him and like a couple other people, and he's like, it doesn't surprise me that Rampage Raddison, he said something to the effect of, and I quote the best I can, it doesn't surprise me that Rampage Raddison has a good match. He's came a long way. He has one of the most methodical, believable brawler characters I've seen in this area ever. And, you know, and with having the mindset that that dude doesn't really care for you because of some of the people he aligns himself with, mm-hmm. and then seeing something like that, it's very flattering. And it kind of like opens your eyes, like, what? You know, and you're like, whoa, wait, what? Whoa, hold up, you know, stop this. What's going on here, you know? But yes, I didn't really ever go off a point. I just wanted to put out there the synopsis of the point for the question you asked, mm-hmm. and now I'm finally going to answer it. What is the one thing that I want everybody to remember me by whenever it's time to officially hang the boots up? That I'm probably one of the, if not the, once again, it's a very biased opinion, hardest workers in this business, not just necessarily in the ring, but around the clock. You know, don't get me wrong, I look a lot better than what I did, and yes, on a personal level, yes, I told myself, yes, I need to get my health together. But I didn't just do it just for me. I did it for my family. Mm-hmm. I did it for my friends. I did it for my fans. Because without proper health, you can't really live long on this planet. And you and I both know, you know, through trials and tribulations of others that we've had close to us, you know, our time is really undetermined. But it has been a proven fact by scientists and all these big experts and stuff that that better health you have, the longer you live.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I just want everybody to know, everything I've done for myself, I've not done just for myself, as I've done it for everybody involved with me, or rather it's just a comment on Facebook, hey, how are you? Or a like on Facebook, or you retweet something of mine. I do everything for myself because I have to be here on this planet and be able to provide for myself. But if I can't keep my priorities straight and my life straight, then none of those people are really going to be able to enjoy me. So in order for me to be able to get the full effect out of my life and my character on a personal level, I have to be able to work hard to do that for them as well. I just want people to remember me as one hard worker. Rather, they could consider it to be the hardest or just hard in general. Everything I do for them is considered hard.
I think that's a fantastic answer. And before we go, do you have any social media outlets that the fans can reach you at or follow you on?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook or Twitter, either one, at Rampage Raddison. Capitalize both R's. I've actually had a fan, like, I put Rampage Raddison in on Facebook and I didn't see it. I'm like, okay, did you space it? Yeah.
Double up the capital
Double
letters.
the R's. Did you do that? No. Double the R's. On Twitter, obviously, it is without a space. It's squished together. Once again, capital R's. You can find me at either one of those. I do have a Snapchat, but I keep that for, I kind of use that. Remember a long time ago, like way a long time ago when internet first came around, they had such thing called Live Journal.
Yep.
That's my personal live journal. So, I mean, if somebody sends me a request on Snapchat, you're going to get declined. I apologize. Fan, friend, family. I got feelings and emotions just like everybody
Yeah,
else.
it's an outlet.
My Facebook and my Twitter, I put opinions and views and stuff on there. Don't get me wrong, I plug shows all the time, and any kind of event I go to, whether it be autograph signing, an actual show, this podcast. Regardless, I plug everything on there, but my Snapchat is my modern day live journal, so I keep that for that. Also, I want to throw a couple little plugs out there. I have a good friend. He's a truck driver, which, kind of explains, why he hasn't had a lot of time because he's always on the road. His name is a worker by the name of Brad Mayhem. He's traveling all over this world right now. He had a medical condition with a shoulder injury that kind of messed him up. It's recovered. Any promoter across the world, I don't care who you are, contact him on Facebook, Twitter, something like that. If you need to get a hold of him, you can't find him, message me on Facebook or on Twitter. I'll get with you. Also, ICW is having a huge event. It is going to be Friday night, July 13th at the 8 Second Saloon, which is a huge venue that night. Indianapolis, have you ever been to Pierre's in Fort Wayne?
Yes.
All right, so
Yes.
You're familiar with Pierre's. They have a lot of good acts, musical acts. They just recently had, I think, Seether come through there back in December. So they have a lot of big name acts that come through Pierre's. Well, Indianapolis's version of Pierre's is 8 Second Saloon. So this is a huge event, and I'm not going to lie, there's been tons of promotions over my 18 years that I've been in this business that has tried to get into that venue for a show and has failed. The owner of ICW, Christopher Doyle, is going to have a show there that night. Huge card. Huge card. Tickets are on sale now through Ticketmaster. That's the only way you can get them. I usually, they're made through at other sites or other people, graphic designers and stuff, and then they'll send him the design, he gets the tickets, prints them off himself and stuff. This one's going through Ticketmaster. That night you'll see TNA star The Monster Abyss. It is a huge super card. You will see formerly known in TNA wrestling as Magnus. Currently the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis, will be there that night defending that championship against somebody within the NWA ranks. You will see former WWE star Rob Conway as well. And probably the biggest star that we are going to have on the show, which may I add is sponsored by, this star is sponsored by Thompson Plumbing. You can find them on Facebook. Also a local band out of Indianapolis by the name of Cage the Villain. They sponsored Adam Rose to be at this show for ICW Wrestling. But you can catch that night also, Friday, July 13th, former WWE star Adam Rose.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good card.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be crazy, man. By the way, also I want to put a little contest out there. Once again, this is on improv. You knew nothing about it. On my way out there, Sunday, May 6th in Greenfield, Indiana. I have my rematch clause against the Monster Abyss in a tag team Monsters Ball match. So I kind of like was running my brain through here, and I was like, man, how in the heck can I do this where it benefits everybody? So here's how we're going to do this. When this podcast is posted, share this podcast to your wall. It's a 3-step process. I'm giving out 2 free tickets to Sunday, May 6th, ICW Monster Ball 2 that night. Featuring TNA star the Monster Abyss. I'm giving out 2 free tickets. I'm also going to guarantee the person and the winner of this an autograph and a photo ops with the Monster Abyss the day of the show. So it's a pretty big deal.
That is a sweet package.
Yes, it is. So this is all you got to do. 3 steps. 1, share this podcast on your wall for this episode. After that, you need to get 5 likes or the emojis, whatever it is that, Facebook's made the options so huge now. You can do a heart and all this other stuff. Regardless, you need 5 of those. And then after that, you need to go to ICW fan page. In your search bar on Facebook, it's just the letters ICW together, space, fan, space, page. Go there, like their page. It's all ran by an admin, and they've got like 4 or 5 admins, so it'd be real easy to approve them to like the page. Once you get approval to the like, you need to put a comment on the ICW fan page that says, I got 5. You do that, and you're the very first one to do that. The very first one. We're having a race here. I will contact you personally, and you will be the winner of the 2 free tickets, the special photo ops with the Monster Abyss, and an autograph.
All right. Well, that's a pretty sweet package, guys. I look forward to you guys sharing and getting the word out there. And that's going to do it for our first installment of this series. I would like to thank my guest, Rampage Raddison, for taking time out of his very busy schedule to join me. And everybody, have a happy WrestleMania day. And we will see you next week when the 4 of us come back together, and we will talk then. So everybody, take care, and we will see you later.
Have a good one.